So the trouble is that we've made Christmas a bit of a fairy story. We've fallen into that trap about being romantic rather than basing it on the facts. I'm sorry, Mr. Rossetti, yours is my favourite carol, but really it wasn't snowing snow on snow. The fact is that the Bible gives us barely 20 verses to go on, and only in 2 accounts. The other 25 books of the Bible don't even mention it. I'd say that it's not only just that it didn't happen in winter with snow, it was probably happening in the middle of summer. Because if the Romans were taking a census, they wouldn't want people travelling about in the winter. That would be very inconvenient, muddy roads and tracks. Spring would be people planting their crops, and autumn would be people harvesting. So the summer is most likely when it happened. And yeah, it wasn't in a big German wooden barn either. We know from archaeology now that people kept their pets in sort of cave-like structures where the animals were down below, and the keepers had little alcoves on a shelf up above where the heat from the animals rose and kept them warm. So when Mary and Joseph couldn't find room, they couldn't find room on the top shelf, and then they had to sleep in down amongst the animals with all the muck. And another myth. If you look at Herod's instructions about the slaughter of the innocents, be all the babies under 2 years old, well, it seems pretty clear that Mary and Joseph actually stayed in Bethlehem for quite some time. It wouldn't have still been in the stable. They'd have moved into one of their relatives' houses or somewhere else. So when the Magi came to visit, they wouldn't have been in the stable. And I'm sorry, we don't know how many, whether there were, or whether they were men or not. There's some mysterious strangers came to their house. So not 3 men and not a stable. The reality of Jesus' birth was that it was stark and brutal and risky. 1 in 10 children died in childbirth. Many mothers died in childbirth. Evidence is that 50% of the population in the Roman Empire didn't live beyond the age of 5. If this is God's plan to save the world, how risky was it? Did he have a backup? And one day, I really must do some thinking about the slaughter of the innocents, Herod's massacre. How is it that when the Saviour of the world comes, his arrival causes the mourning and death of so many innocent children, and the suffering of so many mothers? You see, most of what passes for Christmas these days is really just a distraction and a denial, rather than a opening up and paying attention to where God is actually involved in our suffering and our pain.